And a pleasant good afternoon to you, and welcome to the Horns Report, where we talk about all things UT athletics. I'm your host, Billy Gates, and with me is Roger Wallace. He's been out for a while, but he's back. We'll get to him in a second. But before we get going, I wanted to share with you something from Longhorns women's head coach Vic Schaefer talking about the tiebreaker situation that he found his team in after winning a share of the SEC championship on Sunday rather. They blew out Florida 72-46, and with a 15-1 record, they tied with South Carolina for the regular season championship. And since they beat each other, they had to go to a coin flip to decide who the number one seed was to the SEC tournament coming up starting on March 5th. It went to the Gamecocks. They're the number one seed now. But here's Coach Vic Schaefer talking about that sort of process and, his thoughts on it.
That want to go point differential. Some people could say, well, who's the higher ranked team nationally? There's probably one half dozen or another ways that you can possibly do it. Here's my thing, and I think the country needs to understand this. And my staff's going to get on me because I'm always giving people props and giving people credit, but I learned that from Coach Blair. You always try to give your opponent credit. So I'm going to give South Carolina and LSU a little credit here. If I've had to see them a lot. I've had to deal with them personally. If there's anybody in this world that thinks they're not one of the top four teams in the country, you're crazy. Those two teams are really good. And again, we try to give people credit. But, I could go down the list in our league of everybody who's given us a run for our money, on certain nights, and how hard it's been to win on the road. I think we won 2 games in Mississippi by the total score of 7 points between Mississippi and Mississippi State. So it's tough. Again, you can look across the country and ask these other teams that have lost here lately. It's hard. It's hard being number 1, number 2, number 3. Last week I think 2 lost, 7, 8, and 10 lost in one day. It's hard, and these kids are doing it. So I just think that what our kids have been able to accomplish in this league, dealing with the teams that we've had to deal with, you got to tip your hat to them. They've done it, and they've done it with the hardest schedule possible.
I think that was Vic's way of just saying that he's okay with the coin flip. It took him 2 minutes to get it out, but that's kind of how I got. Maybe he's a little annoyed by it, but in the end, it doesn't make a ton of difference. It just determines their matchups.
Yeah, if there was more on the line than that seeding, obviously the losing side is going to be a little bit more upset at the format. But I don't know what else you do. Maybe Vic and Dawn Staley shoot free throws or something, but I think
with much respect to Vic, I think Dawn Staley wins that one.
Yeah, so they're going to go to South Carolina in South Carolina's backyard, and I'm sure they're thinking get that tiebreaker against them on Sunday in the championship game. They got some time though, and have to play 2 before that if they can get there. So, here's the schedule.
Yeah. So there's the schedule. March 5th through the 8th in Greenville, South Carolina. Texas will enter the tournament in the quarterfinals, so they essentially get a 2-round bye while the other teams have to play. Their first game will be March 7th at 6 p.m. That'll be on the SEC Network. The opponent is TBD, but as we were joking off camera, Roger, it's going to be a state with an M.
Yeah, and 3 teams that played them really well. You start with Mississippi State and Missouri. The winner of that one will face Ole Miss, and then the winner of that one will face Texas. Texas went on the road. Ole Miss, they kind of stole that one in Oxford. Mississippi State last Thursday, that was a tough one. Vic went back to Starkville for the first time as a head coach for an opposing team, and then obviously Missouri played them pretty tough here. So they'll be rested because if it's one of those first 2, they'll have played 2 games in 2 nights before having to play Texas. So there's the bracket of that SEC tournament. It's in Greenville, South Carolina.
Yes.
Not Greenville, North Carolina, where East Carolina is located.
That's not confusing at all.
That's right.
So they'll either get number 15 seed Missouri or Mississippi State. They'll play in the first round game. Winner of that feeds into the number 7 seed Ole Miss, and then that game feeds into Texas. This sets up a 2-3 matchup for the Longhorns in the semifinals against LSU, which, it's always a fun one when Texas and any team that Kim Mulkey coaches is involved. And then South Carolina, you're number one. They're at the top of the bracket, and they could end up facing Kentucky in the semifinal if things go chalk.
LSU's limping in, literally and figuratively.
Yes.
They lost Thursday to Alabama, and then shockingly lost on Sunday to Ole Miss. Now they're a little banged up. Flau'jae Johnson's out for the SEC tournament, but still, I think in everyone's back of their mind, they'd rather not see LSU in a semifinal given the choice. I mean, think about Alabama. Texas just boat raced Alabama here. That was the night before the Cotton Bowl, so that seemed like an eternity ago when they played that one. But I think Kim Mulkey on the sideline. I think that's going to be a tough matchup if it were Texas, if it were South Carolina. Assuming they get by, they may have to play Ole Miss again, and Ole Miss beat them by 8 at home in Baton Rouge yesterday.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that. March 7th at 6 p.m., that's when Texas will hit the floor in the SEC tournament. They're on the women's side, and they'll face either Mississippi State, or Missouri. The men's side is a bit more solidified now. There's 2 games left in the regular season, and it's going to be tough for the Longhorns to get in the field of 68. It is, well, here, I'll just pull up some recent results here. 16-13 overall, 5-11 in conference play. Two pretty tough losses to Arkansas on the road, and then that loss to Georgia at home, Roger, that was kind of backbreaking.
Yeah, and they play Arkansas tough, and then they come home and Georgia just jumps on them. I think that's one of the problems, because if you look at the projections, they're still kind of hanging around at that. Now I think they're first 4 out by Joe Lunardi. So the SEC is so strong. A couple of wins this week, and again, something's going to have to drastically change tomorrow. Mississippi State's really good. It's a road game.
Yeah.
But a couple of wins. Oklahoma comes here on Saturday. They're probably right back in the mix, but this is a team that can't worry about that. They got to figure out how to put it together and play a good game. And supposedly, your finish it's a body of work thing. So the fact that they've really struggled down the stretch, committee members are human, but supposedly it's the body of work. Other problem, Billy, obviously, they don't have great non-conference wins.
Exactly. The best one is like NC State, I believe, and their net is in the 50s, I think, or something like that.
NC State, and we've talked about this before, you go to Brooklyn, you beat Syracuse and St. Joe's, those wins aren't going to help you much, and they're neutral. If they were on the road.
Wish they were better.
No doubt. No doubt. They lost to Ohio State and Las Vegas. So if they can get 2 here, which would be a tall task at Starkville on Tuesday night, at least they get back in the conversation. It's interesting because now the NIT has an automatic qualifier. It's the top team that's not in the NCAA tournament from 12 conferences, SEC being the number 1 conference. So Texas gets in by that. They also are guaranteed a home game in the NIT. But that could be a crazy week, Billy, because the women are going to host a regional. And you could have a first 4 here on the women's side. Remember, they don't play the first 4 at a predetermined site for the women. And a lot of times it's the number 1 overall seed, or that's the discussion. So that'll be for another day.
Yeah,
throwing a lot at you.
all kinds of moving parts. So I want to show one thing here from the website barttorvik.com. That it's a big data kind of ranking site that the NCAA is helping use in their selection committee kind of process. Really good information on here. So this compares Texas's kind of resume, as it were, with teams from the past on if they had similar resumes from these teams. This is how Texas may or may not get into the tournament, and this looked a lot better last week. This actually had teams with similar resumes in different years making the tournament, getting in. All of them ended up losing in like the round of 32, I think. But now all the teams here in this similar resume kind of table all of them have missed the tournament. So there's 2 games left, and if they're able to get 2, then that's going to change some things a little bit, but it's not looking good.
No, and they can't just keep relying on being in the SEC because, the outcry, why do you reward a team at the bottom of their conference when there's so many really good mid-major teams that have so much better records? Texas is fighting a lot of different factors, and it's self-inflicted. They came down the stretch when they had a chance. Think about back when they beat A&M and the 30-point win at LSU after the loss to Ole Miss, and they just haven't taken care of business. So unless they can find something here in the last week and maybe get a win in Nashville, looks like they're going to be on the outside looking in on selection.
Yeah, not looking good, but hey, there's still a little bit of ball left, so who knows? So, Roger, we said you've been out flying across the country, jet setting, covering different things.
Yeah.
This past weekend, you were in Las Vegas with the Texas baseball team, and they had a great weekend.
They did.
They finished the Las Vegas Classic 3-0. They win that tournament. Wins over Washington, Texas Tech. They always love a win over the Red Raiders, and then a win over Illinois. And we've been saying this all year long, Roger. They're going to hit the snot out of the ball, and they certainly did that this weekend.
Yeah, double figures every game. Washington was odd because they were up 9-1, and they had to hang on and win 10-9. Then they're up 10-0 on Tech. Tech gets some late runs, and it ends up being 10-4. And then they're down 6-1 to Illinois, and they explode for 14 unanswered to win it 15-6, and they had a chance to run rule them, and they couldn't. So, yeah, their concern right now is figuring out the pitching, the roles of the pitching staff. There's still some questions in the field. Casey Borba played third yesterday. You're going to have Adrian Rodriguez in the lineup, but Texas had 4 errors against Texas Tech. Now, the conditions were tough out there.
Yeah.
It's a dirt infield. Yesterday was just brutal. The box score, they give you the time of the game, the attendance, and then the weather. Yeah. Well, on the box score, it said wind 28 to 47 miles an hour. And ironically, they didn't hit a home run yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
But that's 9 in a row, and the one loss was that Louisville game where they had 2 chances in the 9th and the 10th to close it out and couldn't get it done. Now they're home for 5 before they open SEC play.
Yep, they've gotten 2. It kind of seems like they've found at least 2 of their 3 weekend starters in Jared Spencer and Luke Harrison. Both great starts for them. Cade Bing, I think he's going to come along fine. Schlossnagle, we'll hear from him in a second. He called Bing's performance okay. Thank goodness for Max Grubbs, who could end up filling in that third starter role unless they really like him out of the bullpen.
Yeah, and I think so because he's a strike thrower.
Yeah.
And man, that has been even though they're 9-1, that has been the struggle late in the innings, and we saw it on Friday against Washington, struggling to find the strike zone when you're trying to close out games, and that's what he does. Dylan Valentis is another kid that might end up, and the guy that's pitching tomorrow night, he's only had 1 start, Jason Flores, but they really like him. Big, thick right-hander, which would give you 2 lefties and a righty with Spencer and Harrison. Yeah. So those are some things to figure out. They shut down Riojas after Friday, and Schlossnagle said he doesn't want him to pitch until this coming weekend with Santa Clara. So, some roles are trying to be defined, and I think he thinks he's got some things figured out, and then a guy might struggle a little bit as well. But, Grubbs came in. It was a big inning, obviously, against Washington in a 1-run game Friday. Yeah, no, he came in and shut the door, stopped that bleeding, got that win, and then he came in that third game against Illinois and really kind of cleaned up a bit of a mess that Bing left and kind of held things together until the bats could come live again, and then they won another one. So here is Jim Schlossnagle after that Illinois win from Las Vegas. Here, take a listen to this.
Yeah, just really proud of our team. Just told them, this time last week we weren't in the greatest place offensively, coming off the cold weather and everything, and the week of work that our guys put in with Troy and Gehrig and Nolan and everybody else on the offensive side of the ball, it showed up this weekend, and just a really good week of baseball, winning games in different ways. I thought that Bing was okay, but Grubbs was outstanding. It's really a good sign for us to be able to see him pitch in different roles, and also a huge huge good sign for us. And Saunier, he's been working on some changes in the bullpen. He took him into the game. So excited to have been in this tournament. Super thankful for the people that run the tournament, Ryan and the Peak group, and the people here in Las Vegas. We're honored to be here. Super proud of our team. We've played in 2 tournaments that have championships, and we're walking home with both of them. And I've always felt like that anytime there's a championship to win, we want to win it. And I don't care if it's in Globe Life or if it's here. If there's a trophy, we want that thing going back to Texas.
I love that competitiveness, that streak from Schlossnagle. Like I don't care if we're playing in a big league ballpark or a sandlot or an alley. If there's a piece of shiny hardware available to take back with us, we want that. And I love that.
Yeah, and they go there and sweep, and then you look what they did in Arlington to getting the wins over Ole Miss, who's playing really well now, and they're back in the top 25 in Oklahoma State. And the other thing, man, you want to stack these wins because you know how tough the SEC is, and Schloss made it sound like we're going to have some struggles. It's coming. Doesn't know when, but it's coming. But right now they're on a nice little run. They'll get A&M Corpus Christi on Tuesday night, and then Santa Clara the weekend, and UTA Tuesday, and then go to Mississippi State. But nice start after such a heartbreaking way to start his Longhorn head coaching career.
Yeah, you mentioned the rankings. Texas moves up 3 spots to number 12 in the D1 baseball top 25. Moving from 15 with that perfect week. They beat Incarnate Word earlier in the week, and then they finished 3-0 in Las Vegas. Texas A&M, the former number 1 team, they had a rough go at it last week. Finished 1-3, and they tumble all the way down to 15. So now the Longhorns are ranked ahead of the Aggies, and I'm sure the folks in Aggie land, they shouldn't be worried because that's a darn good team, but you know, whenever the Longhorns are above the Aggies in anything, they kind of get a little stir crazy over there.
Well, yeah, and number 1 falling, a losing streak. They lose an All-American in Grohovic.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Injuries suck.
Right,
Like,
and they run ruled Rice last night in Houston at Dakin Park, old Minute Maid, to salvage 1 there.
Yeah.
But they'll get it going.
Yeah.
There's too much talent over there. But obviously the flipping in the polls has everybody a little bit excited, I would think, in College Station with Aggie fans.
I'm sure they're all on edge over there. Moving over to softball real quick, the Texas softball team, they're doing their thing. They finished the Longhorn Invitational 5-0. I believe 3 or 4 of those wins were via run rule. They're not number 1 anymore. That loss to Stanford in Arizona knocked them down to number 2. I believe Oklahoma is number 1 now in the ESPN USA softball poll, but
Mike White wouldn't have argued that at the beginning of the season.
No kidding.
Hard to argue against them being number 1 until they're not holding that trophy again.
Yep, but no, the softball team is they're doing what they do. I mean, they hit, they pitch. I mean, they've got Baylor coming up Wednesday here in Austin to end a big homestand, and then they're off to Columbus, Ohio, to take on a smattering of folks. St. Francis, Oakland, Merrimack, Dayton, and Ohio State.
Why wouldn't you want to go to Columbus, Ohio in the second week of March play softball?
Yeah, I hope Buckeye Field has a dome on it or some sort of climate control.
Yeah, I spent a few marches in Ohio.
Oof,
Going to have to get lucky.
And then after Ohio State, they jumped straight into the SEC fire. It's not even a fire, it's an inferno. Every team there play in the SEC is ranked, with Missouri receiving votes, but they could be ranked by the time they play them. But they open the SEC with just some program named the Florida Gators, who are number 3, right behind the Longhorns in the rankings. This
team they saw in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, team that they saw in Oklahoma City, and just the Diamond sports in the SEC, baseball and softball. Oh boy, it's the real deal.
Yep. Well, I mean, they're going to take some lumps. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Just like baseball in that conference, but you just kind of hang on and hang in there, and they'll give some teams some lumps as well. So we're getting into March, where we get a little more serious with the balls and the bats, and obviously with the hoop, it really ramps up.
Yeah. Real quick before we go, I want to give a shout out to our very own Brianna Hollis. She's our crime reporter here at KXAN, but she was a collegiate volleyball player during her heydays in Northeastern up in the Boston area. And now on our sister station, KBVO, we are airing all of the home Texas beach volleyball matches, and Brianna is doing the play-by-play for that. And she called 4 great duels, I believe is what they're called in the beach volleyball circles there, their terminology. They're at Wright Whitaker Park, up north of the Triangle here in town. Texas beats Coastal Carolina, Tulane, Stephen F. Austin, and Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Who knew Bree could do that? I think all of us did.
They were all great. Yeah. It was fun to watch, and cool that we were able to produce and air those games also on the LHN app.
Yes.
And obviously her experience as a player showed through as well. So it's really cool, and we'll get a chance, in a couple weeks to see more action on KBVO?
Yes. I just blew past it. Where here we go. Yes. March 21 and 22 is another event here in town at the Wright Whitaker Sports Complex Park up in North Central Austin. They've got Grand Canyon, Cal Berkeley, Loyola Marymount, and Arizona State on the schedule for that. So
and if you're wondering why this isn't on the networks you watch other SEC Sports Plus and that, it's because beach volleyball is not part of the SEC.
Right.
So they don't play under that SEC media thumb. So that's the reason that we're able to step in here. And they're thrilled not only to be on TV, to be on over-the-air TV for their home matches.
Right.
And a chance to see what it's all about, just growing this game. They're already ranked, and they've only been playing the second full year.
Yeah.
So not surprising with Texas automatically getting right in the conversation. They'll only get a stronger recruiting base.
And they already have a legendary beach coach in Stein Metzger, too.
Yep.
Like, he took the UCLA program to national championships. So, I mean, when you want to be the best, you got to hire the best. And that's obviously Texas is getting pretty good at that. And they will close the season here in town April 18th and 19th against Southern Mississippi, North Florida, and Cal Poly. So all those games will be on KBVO. That's channel 14 over the air. And then you can find it whoever your TV provider is, DirecTV, YouTube, whatever. Go search for it. But it's great that we were able to do that and have such a knowledgeable in-house person to do play-by-play. And Brianna's partners have been very good too. Tori and Natalie there, they were both great too. So good stuff from beach volleyball, and happy that we're able to provide it. Alrighty, well, that'll do it for this episode of the Horns Report. Thank you so much for watching. For Roger Wallace, I'm Billy Gates, and we'll talk to you